Hey everyone, I hope you all can hear me. I'm wearing my earbuds. So I'm Stacey Jackson, as you're all following me, so you know who I am, and I'm super excited. I'm going to be chatting with a dear friend of mine. We go back, way back. Actor, director, producer, David Lipper. I don't know how I'm going to, I hope he gets on here. I mean, there must be a way to request for him to come up. Is David, are you on? I think we have to, it's David, I don't see you. He should be coming up any second. Hello, David. Okay, let's figure this out. Hold on. Got somebody here helping me on my tech. Invite to join. There we go. Okay, David, there we go. There we go. David Lipper has joined. I'm going to see him come up on the screen, apparently. I don't know. David, there you are. Okay, we're in.
Fantastic.
Sorry, it's my first live, so I'm super excited. I want to say that we're both actually very far away from home, but we're not, because I think you're actually in Canada at the moment, right?
I am. I'm in the lovely Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada.
Are you filming a new project?
Yes, I'm doing a movie that I started writing about 15 years ago called The Christmas Letter.
Right.
And we are now in the throngs of pre-production, and we start filming on the 12th.
Oh, that's exciting. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we both left Montreal a long time ago. I mean, people will probably remember your claim to fame up until recently, obviously, was Viper in Full House. My kid has seen every episode a zillion times, and obviously you've garnered a lot of success over the years, and so yeah, I mean, we go back. Oh my goodness, we go back high school, and we were both in the school plays together. We actually went to prom together.
That's right.
That was going to come up. I wanted to get it out of the way right at the beginning. And the cutest thing ever was, I mean, we've obviously stayed in touch over the years. I live in London. You live in Hollywood now. You're living in LA. So tell me about, after high school, where did you go to college? I mean, I know the answers, but tell all our followers, where did you go to uni? And then what made you move to Hollywood and then start your career?
So I went to Emerson College in Boston.
Yep.
And I got a degree in musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I had taken off a semester to do a series in Montreal called Time of Your Life.
Yeah, I remember.
Which ran for 150 episodes, and I had shot 75 of them. And then decided I wasn't ready. I wanted to finish college. I wanted to learn more about life. And I thought, if I don't finish college now, I'll probably never go back. I'll be too caught up in career. So I made that decision to leave the show halfway through. And there was some contract issues where they weren't quite able to pay what they were supposed to. So I had that option, and I took it. And then graduated on time, just overloaded. And I really had no doubts. I did a month run of Fiddler on the Roof at the Sadie Brofman Center, which I think is now called the Siegel Center in Montreal.
Yeah.
And then I boarded a plane, and I got to LA and thought, oh, I'm going to make it huge like this. It'll just happen, because I was a little crazy. And when
you got it, David. Good for you.
I mean, in fairness, things happen pretty quickly. My first audition was within a few weeks. A guy that I had known from theater camp, who was one of the main directors there, became a big casting director. And he said, I got a buddy who's casting a show called Step by Step with Suzanne Summers and Patrick Duffy, and they're looking for the new hot young guy. And I ended up doing what's called a test deal, where you go in front of the network with a contract and everything. And it was me and Sasha Mitchell for this part. And, you know, I didn't have an agent. I didn't know what was going on. And they started calling me at that point. We'd like to represent you, because that's a big deal when you get a pilot test deal. And that was it. And I got a very, very good agent. You know, and I had some good guidance from my friend who was a casting director. And he said, that's the agent you want to go with.
Brilliant.
And she had a bunch of really hot kids at the time, like Leonardo DiCaprio. Um, and that was it. I was off to the races, and I was the half-hour guy. And the next thing you know, this group of writer-producers named Kaufman Bright Crane said, we'd like you to star in a show for us. And Warner Brothers kind of gave me a little deal. And this was called The Secret Life of Harry Green, and I was Harry Green. And
how long did that run for? Was that just a pilot?
Well, it was a pilot, and they had made 2 pilots that year. This one, yeah, this one, and the other one was a little show called Friends.
Okay.
You know, and we had actually tested even better than Friends. It was a really good show, and my best friends were Giovanni Ribisi, Hilary Swank, Tiffany Thiessen played my girlfriend, and Kaylee Coco, a young Kaylee Coco, was my little sister. So I mean, everybody kind of went on to superstardom, and I just had this string of failed pilots. Unfortunately, you know, we were on the board, we were off the board. Back in those days, I won't say how long ago that was, but you can imagine it was the beginning of Friends. Back in those days, they made so many pilots, and I think my year there were 22 half-hour pilots for Fox. They would do the half hours and the 1 hours, and so, you know, you're 22, 23 pilots vying for 2 slots on the schedule. So it was very competitive. And then, of course, if they'd known that Friends was going to be the biggest thing ever, they would have just picked it up automatically. So had that show been a year later, you know, I don't think they would have blinked. They would have put it on for a long time.
But everything happens for a reason, David. I mean, come on, look where you are now. I mean, you've got an incredible career that you have. And I mean, let's fast forward a little bit to me getting a text message about, I don't know, a year and a half ago saying, you know, I'm doing this little movie and we need like a performer on stage. Would you like to, would you like to come to LA and be that performer and do a cameo? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be in a movie. I'm there. So tell me a little bit about this new project. I mean, we'll go back a bit in time, obviously, and talk about a little bit more leading up to this, but specifically because it's coming out May 4th in the United States and in Canada, and then again in the UK in June, and Europe. It's called Reboot Camp. And I saw it with my husband. We laughed our butts off. And it's won all these awards. I feel like so connected to it and so honored to have been a part of it, even just a tiny little bit. And so tell me about this, because you're not only starring in it, you produce it. It's obviously something very close to home. You play a French Canadian guru. So give us the lowdown on this movie.
So first off, just to tie in everything, you know, yeah, everything happens for a reason. And the thick skin I developed from those experiences we were talking about early on in my career, you know, taught me out of the box thinking, said, don't get pigeonholed into thinking things are going to happen the way they look like they're going to happen, you know, adapt. And producing is something that became part of that adaptation. So in 2016, 2017, I really produced my first film called The Unwilling, which is doing very well now on YouTube as on the AVOD platforms. And I started to learn how to put movies together and develop, and all these relationships I've developed over the years, I started to use those to my advantage. And by being a nice guy, you know, which people are like, oh, nice guys don't make it in this business. Well, you know what? It comes back. And then all of a sudden, when I needed favors and I said, hey, can you guys help me out? They said, we're there for you, Dave. And that's the only reason I've been able to make a whole string of movies in the last couple of years. You know, I've made 8 movies in the last 2 years. 7 as producer. That's the key thing. So when Ivo Raza came to me, and I had done a short film for him, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. And he hired me to come out to Florida and shoot this thing. We'd stayed in touch, good relationship. I was easy to work with. You know, both of us wanted to work with each other again. And he said, I've got this, my baby. I've been working on it for years. It's called Reboot Camp. And I've always thought of you as the lead. Would you take a look at it and tell me what you think? And I did. And then we talked about how to make it and what budget range. And, you know, and I told him my opinions on how to get it produced. And then he said, well, would you like to produce it? And I said, no, but yes, I'm going to produce this. Because I, you know, having, you know, had a tough experience on The Unwilling, I was like, God, I don't know if I want to go through this again. But
Yeah.
then the most magical thing happened is it was the greatest experience I've ever had in making a film in my life. First off,
Well, you were surrounded by so much talent. I mean, you had the cast of like unbelievable A-listers. I mean, Eric Roberts, Joe Rule. I mean, what a cast! And
no
they're all
casting
your
director,
friends.
no casting director, me picking up the phone for the most part and calling friends. You know, Eric Roberts and I had done a movie together in 2000, 2001 that I started with him, that we shot in Montreal, actually. Ed Begley Jr. and his wife are friends of mine.
They're so
Chaz
lovely.
Bowen's manager it used to be my agent a long time ago, and he also reps Stacey Jackson. That's how I got those two.
Right.
Also, Evo and our publicist, David Robertson, also knew him. So, like, we were all pulling together people we knew. Kelly Price and I had worked together in China. I'd wanted to do something with him. I brought him on. It was just this effect. And then Jim Johnson I brought on is a friend of mine that I met on The Unwilling. And he's the guy who ran The Real World for 20 seasons. And
Right.
so I said, look, we better have a guy from the reality world to help us through the interview process. And Jim actually plays the interviewer in the film, interviewing everyone. And like you
Well,
said,
tell everybody who's listening now what like in, you know, the boilerplate. What's the premise of the film? Because it's brilliant. We laughed our butts off. It's very, and you're amazing in it.
Well, I'm so happy you're in there. I'm going to get to how that all happened too in a second. So basically the story's about, I play a guy named Seymour Barr, who the backstory is his wife had left him for a self-help guru. And his brother, Danny, played by Kelly Price, is a young filmmaker who likes making documentaries. And the two of them got together and said, let's blow this whole self-help BS world out of the park, and we will make a documentary about how easy it is to create one of these things and how susceptible people are to these fake gurus. And basically not quite knowing what was going to happen, but said, let's just create it. What are we going to call it? We call it the Reboot Camp. And people will come and reboot their systems for a new high-tech version of self-help. And so he starts filming it, and I become this leader. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't even think about what the alter ego, who we call Gordon St. Pierre in the script, what he was going to be. And Evo said, what are you going to do for this character? And I said, I don't know. And he said, take a look at a bunch of these documentaries on Netflix and see what pops. And I watched one called Holy Hell on Netflix about this French former gay porn actor who
that was your inspiration?
Oh my God, walked around in a little Speedo, and they walked around with a chair, you know, treating him like the king.
Right.
And I just thought, that's the guy, and the progression will get worse and worse until they're carrying a chair for me, and I'm walking around in the Speedo, and I love it. And so he said, great, can you do the French accent? And I said, yeah, I grew up in Montreal, Bob, I'll make it French-Canadian. So
it was brilliant. It worked great. Your accent was fabulous. I mean, honestly, we laughed so much. Also because I know you in real life, like, so I was watching it like, oh, it was brilliant. I can't wait for people to see it. Honestly, I'm super excited.
Me too. And that was literally at the table read. It was the first time I popped it out and said, let's hear how it sounds. And people were laughing. And so I said to Evo, I said, I think it's working. Let's go with it. And he said, absolutely, let's do it. So that's how that happened. And like I said, it was a combination of mostly me, but also some of the other people involved in the production, calling friends of friends. Our EP, Tim Mully, he called Jarul, their friends, and Jarul came out. Obviously, you know that. You had a scene with him. And then David Keckner, we had a connection through my other producer, Tina Sutakanet. She made a phone call for him. And it's like when all this was happening, we were talking about the party scene, about having music, and Jarul said he didn't really want to do any music stuff. And I thought, you know what, let me call Stacey. I mean, it's like, because you and I had a reconnection when you came out to LA. Obviously, you've been doing really well with your music career. which is amazing to see. And you've had these gigs in LA, so I've gotten to see you a few times in recent years when you've come out to do shows and stuff. And I just thought, wow, this could be fun. You know, I said, I don't know if you want to fly out here and do this, but if you do, we'd love to have you. And the amazing thing about you is you are so on it. I don't know how you do it because, look, I'm a workaholic. I work all the time, but I don't have a husband and kids on top of it to deal with. And the thing with you is you do all this stuff, and then you go and you make your kids play in school or recital, or you know, and you're a mom and you're a wife, and I don't know how you do it.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
so you were like, I'm hopping on a plane and I'm coming with my dancers, and I'm just like, fantastic.
Well, that was a lot of fun. The dancers, yes, the dancers were local. Luckily, because I had some shows in LA before, I had like a contingency of dancers, so that was easy to pull together. But it was just so funny because you said you're going to be in a scene with Joe Rule, and I'm singing. Obviously, it couldn't have happened at a better time because it's the 10th anniversary of the track I did with Snoop Dogg, and so I was like, how am I going to do this? There's a scene with Ja Rule. I'm singing with a Snoop Dogg song. Anyway, it ended up working out well in the end, thank God. And so we reproduced and remastered the record, and it's coming out alongside the film as a sort of, it's called Live It Up Rebooted.
I love it.
And yeah, we're having it remixed as well by some really hot DJs, Pink Pandas being one of them. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited. I mean, very few people get a second chance with a record, right? And 10 years
and how
later,
nice that we get to have it in our film, and you get to re-release it. I think it's amazing. So.
Oh, thanks. No, honestly, this is just so funny. I think there is a reason why we went to prom together, David.
That's right.
There's a reason. I actually have a picture somewhere.
Oh,
I must have posted this on I have it on my other phone. Hold on. I don't know if people can see this, but that's David and I. It's circa 19. Well, I'm not going to say. But yes, you see. So we're back, and I just. I want to just wrap this up really quickly because I mean we've been yakking and yakking and yak to you forever, and I'm going to be back in LA again this summer, so we'll see each other. But I guess I could count. Being able to record a record with someone as iconic as Snoop Dogg is probably one of the top things in my career. But if you had to tell, we're going to wrap this up with this sort of what do you think would be your best highlights or your number one of your career in the last, I don't know how many years you've been doing this. What would be your greatest achievement that you would think?
I mean, every day is an achievement in this business. You're fighting the odds every day to make a movie, especially in COVID. The fact that I'm on my fourth movie since the pandemic started is, I don't even know how to explain it.
I don't know either. How are you doing this?
I don't know. I just put one foot in front of the other. It's the best I can tell you, and I hope for the best. Or I'm crazy, or both. But, obviously Full House was a big beginning for me. After those failed pilots we were talking about, Full House, was a big show with a big audience, and all of a sudden I was getting a lot of attention outside of people from the business who knew who I was. The public wasn't knowing. And then, this movie, Reboot Camp, has been literally the greatest joy I've had since that beginning on Full House. Also bringing me back to comedy, which are my roots. All through the 90s, I was a comedy guy. It was sitcom. So to be back in the comedy space again, and now this Christmas film that I'm shooting in Ontario, Canada, this is another comedy. And I really, really like this space. And honestly, there's so much grief in the world right now. There is so much angst. There's so much non-togetherness, that to have a movie about being as one, about being spiritual, even though we're making fun and everything, it gives you a chance to laugh, and also strikes home the message that it's important that we still be affectionate and loving to each other. And that's the reason.
I know. How much are we missing hugs, We're
missing hugs. And in Reboot Camp, that's one of the things. It's like they're hugging each other, and that's so joyful for these people that just don't hug anymore. There's a whole other list of reasons that's happening in this world, where people are scared to hug, which is a whole other session we could have. But the fact is, we need this. As human beings, we need affection, we need spirituality. And anybody could start any camp and call it anything, and just keep a safe, open space to be loving to each other, and it would have an effect. So even though it's a comedy and it's silly in places, that message still drives home. And also, be careful not to get high on your own supply. And anyone can become susceptible to too much power and take advantage of it in the wrong way. So all those lessons are in there, but a really fun time. And I think people need to laugh right now. So watch the movie. It's going to be released wide May 4th, probably June 4th in the UK and the rest of Europe. So
that's so exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my Insta Live. Actually, it's my first one and my first guest. And I'm so excited. I'm going to see you again this summer for sure. And I love you. Thank you so much for everything. And I'll be in touch again soon. Thank you, David. Everybody, David Lipper. And thank you all for joining us on the Instagram Live. Mwah. Bye.
Reboot Camp, May 4th.
Reboot Camp, May 4th. Bye, honey.
Bye.